Hello, third grade. I'm going to read to you the epilogue in this story because really, do you see how it's in italics? This part is supposed to be read by your teacher. So I'd like to read this to you today. Let me tell you what an epilogue is. That is a short summary at the end of a story that often gives details about what happens later in the life of the characters. So let's find out. When the missionary returned to America, he gave the tiny silk wedding shoes to an 8-year-old girl. She cherished the tiny shoes and never forgot the story of Ming Chu's beautiful feet. The girl grew up to serve the Lord faithfully in many ways. She kept the tiny shoes and often showed them to others. After she told Ming Chu's story, she encouraged her listeners to be faithful in spreading the gospel so that they too might have beautiful feet. Well, that is a lovely ending to this story, is it not? How would you feel if you were that 8-year-old girl, or even if you were an 8-year-old boy and you got to have these pretty little wedding shoes and the wonderful story you got to learn, the wonderful story that went along with those shoes? It says she cherished those tiny shoes. Cherished means to love something very much. Usually if you cherish something, you'll take very good care of it. So she saved these shoes, and as it says, she told others and encouraged others to have beautiful feet, carrying the gospel or telling the gospel to others. Remember that gospel means good news. You sing that sometimes in chapel. Good news, Christ died for me. That's the gospel that you're talking about. The news of Jesus dying on the cross for our sins, coming back to life, going into heaven victorious over sin and death, and allowing us to ask him into our hearts and be his children. Now, I have a couple of questions to ask you while I'm here on video with you. And the first one is, do you know of anyone who has beautiful feet? Now, since you read the story, you know I am not talking about somebody that has painted her toenails very pretty or somebody who has great looking sneakers, right? We're talking about somebody who tells others about Jesus. Can you think of somebody? Let me pause for you to think. You know, I'm thinking about my mom and dad. My mom and dad got saved when they were kids, and when they were very young adults, when they had me, and I was just a baby, they started learning more about how they needed to tell other people about Jesus. And do you know, all of my life growing up, they told many people about Jesus, and they still do. And a lot of the children that they told about Jesus came to our youth clubs and came to Sunday school. And then sometimes they would even go out. For example, my mom right now, she actually goes into the city of Buffalo and helps with a reading club where she helps kids with their homework, but they also learn about Jesus. My mom and dad have beautiful feet. Can you think of someone? Maybe you're thinking of your pastor, or maybe you're thinking of your mom and dad or grandma. Maybe you're thinking of a friend that always talks about Jesus, even at the lunch table maybe, or even in the classroom. Who do you know who has beautiful feet? Do you want to have beautiful feet and tell others about Jesus? That might be a little tricky right now because we're staying pretty close to our own homes, aren't we? But maybe you could write a note to somebody or talk to somebody on the telephone. Or maybe you can pray that God will help you find somebody when it's time for us to get together with others. So even though Ming Chu is a grown-up, we can learn from her example. Even you as a third grader can learn from her example and already in your life be telling others about Jesus. I wanted to just read that verse. It's found on page 54, but you can also find it in your Bible in the book of Romans. I'll read it right from your book, though. It says, "How beautiful are the feet of them that preach the gospel of peace and bring glad tidings of good things." You know what? The gospel is good news. Remember in chapel, you sang, good news, Christ died for me. Good news, if I believe. Good news, I'm saved eternally. That's wonderful, extra good news. That's the news that Ming Chu was sharing. I hope you have a wonderful day. Thank you for doing your reading, and thank you for answering your questions on Google Classroom. Be sweet to your family today, and I will talk to you soon. Bye-bye.